Me
God,
too.
no. I love it. Oh my gosh. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning into this week's episode of the E to Me podcast. This is Alicia, and I have been talking to my cousin who is actually back on the podcast. She was on the podcast, oh my gosh, was it like 2 or 3 months ago? Was it that
I think
long
so.
ago? Yeah, and we were just talking about our family history and just genealogy and like, back basically just writing down stories as opposed to the storytelling and storytelling too, you know. But we are back here. I'm really excited that she's back. Because one thing we have a lot of things in common. Like let's be serious. But we also are both queer people as well. And so I was like, you
Spoiler
know
alert.
what? It's funny, right?
Sorry.
Just so no, you're good. Like, just so you know, that's what's happening. So I was like, I would love, particularly because I mean, obviously it's Pride Month. Hello, yeah, yeah, yeah. But I was just like, you know what, right? Yes. But I was like, I would love for us to just have a conversation around just being one family, and then also being two queer people in a family that we've never really just like sat down and talked about that at all, right? So before I go any further, guys, please welcome Erin Carson, better known as Carson, back to the Enemy Podcast. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you. And thank you for having me back. I had a great time in our last conversation, so really excited to be back and to be talking about a whole lot of gay shit.
Yes, I love it. Oh my gosh. So obviously, we're gonna start out with like, when did you like realize that you were gay? Like, was it when you were a kid? Like how did this even like? When did all that like come about for you?
That's a great question. Actually, I kind of want to ask you the same question, not like
Yeah,
about
okay.
you, but like about me too, after I answer. Because,
Right,
like,
right,
when
right.
did you? No, but I think that's one of the things about queerness. I think so often people like equate it with like sex, like not
Yes.
just like who you're attracted to, but like the pornographic or like the absurd even or like yeah, but for me, I think I knew I was queer at a very young age, but I didn't have language for it or an example for it. And it wasn't so much about like who I liked or didn't like. Like as a kid, I think it was more of just knowing there was something a little different about me. And I wasn't
Right.
quite sure what it was. Um, and just like the way I like to express myself, and like people always called me like my dad's junior, which partly is just personality. Like I love running around with Carson Senior, and
Right.
um, I always had like a lot of little boyfriends and like boy friends, and like to be outside and climbing
Right.
trees and like, and no one cared. It was just like, oh, that's just you. That's just Carson, like whatever.
Right.
Um, but I think as I got older, there was this idea of like, oh, that's cute when you're a certain age, but like you're gonna grow up and be a young lady, right? Like you're gonna start to conform or like
Right.
wear what you should wear, or, like, those types of things. And so I think as I got older, or even looking back, some of my like really good friends in elementary school, like I'm like, oh yeah, we're all queer or gay in some kind of way now. But
Right.
it was like there's a picture of me from like a snapshot of school, and it's like me and what looked like mini little motorcycle bull daggers. And we're just, but it wasn't a type of thing of like, oh, we got a crush on Mackenzie or Ashley or it wasn't like that. It was just I was just myself. Um,
Right.
and I think around like late elementary to middle school, when like my cousins and my sister were like, my sister that's closer in age to me, were like having crushes or starting to get a little boy crazy. Like I didn't realize until I was much older that for me it was very performative. It was like,
Mm.
oh, well, this is like what you do socially, and like you get a cute little boyfriend that can like play basketball or like, be interesting or like be artsy. But it was, I didn't understand that the way I was experiencing it. I thought everyone was kind of performing it the same way.
Right.
And so I don't think it was suppressing myself as much as just not having language for those feelings or like understanding what that meant. And then like the religious part on top of that, I think around middle school, I had a very like interior life. Um, and the
Yeah.
religion that we grew up in, like the Christian denomination, thinking a sin was the same as committing a sin. Like a sin of the
Right.
heart is as bad as if you did it. So
Right.
if you think about coveting, you already coveted. And so
Yeah.
this like intense anxiety of like, don't think the wrong thing. And then
Mm.
I remember this verse that is essentially like God would rather you be hot or cold, because if you're cold, there's a chance that you can like come to him. But if you're lukewarm, or if you like close your heart to God, it can never be reopened. And so I'd have
Right.
this fear of like one day I'm gonna think the wrong thought and like
Right.
God's heart is gonna be closed to me forever and you can't do it. That's
Right.
so much anxiety for kids
Right.
to live with. Um, and so I think around middle school I would be like she's pretty, or like, oh, but like everybody thinks that. Like girls are just pretty. Everybody thinks like, yeah, like duh. Like lesbianism is for white people. And
Right.
yeah, and it took a lot of my own self-discovery later, but I think there was just no model for it. Like
Mm.
I knew lesbians and they were white women. I knew gay black men in more like relational kind of way, and like they're they're in our community, they're at church, they're everywhere, but it's just not talked about. But it wasn't until I think I was older that I really started questioning it, and I would literally just talk myself out of like, girl, you're not gay, you get niggas. Like, come on. Like, yeah, so I would say probably like college is when I actually started to like explore my
Yeah.
queer identity and like kissed a girl, had like light relation, I wouldn't call them relationships, but just like
Right.
uh experiences with other
Right.
women. And still then it wasn't until I like moved away from Indiana and home completely that I like made community and met other people that it felt like, oh, this is me. This is like the language, this is who I've been all along, and like I get to express it without the fear of like you Dot's grandbaby or like you're Victor's
Right.
daughter, like representing my entire family who knows everybody everywhere. It's like,
Right.
yeah, it gave me the freedom to like answer those questions for myself and not
Mm.
talk to myself in my head like, girl, come on. Like, girls are just pretty. Everybody likes kissing girls a little.
Yeah, I love that, and it's so crazy because you wanted to ask. So you're saying you want to ask me the same question in terms of like when did I know I was gay or when did I know you were gay? Is that what you're saying?
Well, when you were, but also
Oh
like
yeah.
as a little kid, like I look back at pictures and I'm like, when I came out and my like parents acted mildly surprised, I'm like, guys, the evidence was clear. Everybody else knew. Don't act surprised. I wish I had a baby picture to show and be like, Alicia, come on.
Guys, like, well, here's the thing. I'll say for like in terms of me knowing you, like when did I realize you were gay? I don't. Here's the thing, because for people who are listening, we grew up really close. Like our family is like when we were younger, I should say, we were very
Yeah,
close. We were always together. We went to the same church, So it was like we're just always together. So it's like whatever. But all that to say, I'm trying to think. I think at one point we were at church because after church we were always just kind of like hanging out, especially if we had potluck, blah blah whatever. And one day you were playing with somebody. I think it was like one of Pastor Cadet's kids or something, and you said something, and I was just like, and at that point, I think I was like middle schoolish, I think, and I was like, that's like, it wasn't like a quote unquote girly response. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if
yeah,
that makes sense, but I was like, I don't know, maybe right because and the reason why is too because I already know what I was feeling, and I already knew like how I would think about certain things. Like a lot of stuff that I would do and say wasn't that traditional, like what we would consider um feminine type of response to stuff. I was just very like,
yeah,
look, it is what it is, blah, blah. And but also it can be kind of murky with that too, because a lot of the women in our family are like that anyway. Like they're just very, it is what it is, get it done. I don't know what to tell you, right?
yeah.
know? Um, so I think then, but then like once you started going into high school, I was like, yeah, it's happening. Because at that point too, I was already, I was, I think I was out of college or just now finishing college or something like that. So I had been out there, I had, I was living in New York. Let's be serious. So it's like
Yeah.
I've seen the blossoming of young queer people. I was like, okay, it's a matter of time. It's a matter of time. And I remember at one point, my mom didn't say it, like, because you know how my mom, God bless her, like, but she was like, Erin reminds me so much of Carla. She would always
Mm.
say that.
Yeah.
And so for people who might not know, Carla was my sister. She's passed on, but she was also a queer woman. And but she would say it with such emphasis, like she was like, she's such a special girl. She's so special. She reminds me so much of Carla. And I was just like, I knew it. It was like right. I was like, I was right. But I can't say this.
Mm.
I couldn't have that type of dialogue with my mother
Yeah.
because she was so religious. Um, and I think I remember at one point, I don't know if she had shared, I think she had shared this with your dad. I don't think she said like you're gay, but she just said she basically was saying like she's a special child and you need to take care of her.
Mm.
Huh? Yeah. And so I remember that and I was just like, yeah, okay. This is it. This is it
I
for
I
sure.
love your mom, and, like, I've always had, like I mean, I've always had a soft spot for her anyway, and I always felt like she had a soft spot for me, but
Yes.
yeah, even, like, as religious as people are that, um, they might not say it, but that knowing and still, like maybe not in a place where they can make space for you to be fully yourself, but still that,
Right.
like, look out for her or, like
Yeah.
yeah, that recognition of, like, "Oh, like, I see some of Carla in her." Yeah.
Yeah. And so once she said that, I was like, okay, yep, that's it. I knew it. Right. And so, but then at the same time, I was just in awe of you, I must say, because your ability to just be yourself in a way that I mean, I don't know if you knew this, but like for me, I would see you like you were just walking in who you were, like in just like I wouldn't say your purpose, but I mean, I guess whatever. But like you were just kind of like yourself, like genuinely who you like. You didn't really try to like put on airs or anything. And it's like wow, like to be that young and to be able to do that. You didn't like seriously. Like, I'm being
You're
so
gonna make
honest.
me cry.
But I'm dead serious because it's like when would try to like be myself. Because here's the thing, my mom, even though she was very supportive of other folks that were queer, for me it was not that was not like that.
I
Like
believe
she
that, yeah.
and I think for her, she just didn't want me to go down the same road as my sister Carla. Because some people might not know in this podcast, my sister unfortunately lost her life to suicide. She had like a lot of mental health concerns. And so I think my mom attributed that to her being gay.
Yeah.
And to say that um some of her decisions that would cause her depression, I don't say decision, but some of the things that caused her to be depressed, there it is. It was attributed to the fact that she just didn't feel like she was enough because of her being gay. And the fact that she lived in her truth in the 80s in Evansville, Indiana. You know what I'm saying? Like,
Yeah.
and so all that to say, when I came out to my mom, I think it just triggered her in a way. It's like, I don't want you to have to go down that same road, if that makes
Yeah.
sense. You know?
No, it does. I
Yeah.
mean, it makes I can see where she's coming from, even though I'm like, obviously, like, I don't like agree or like, but I
Yeah.
understand a feeling is a feeling. You can't
Yeah.
help how you experience those things. And even my experience is so interesting because I'm like, I feel like when I was older and I came out, there was a little bit of resentment because I'm like, I feel like everybody knew, but didn't want it to be true, so they just didn't talk about it, didn't say anything. But like,
Right.
I had, I felt loved and held in so many ways by our family.
Mm.
Like our family was close. I always felt like encouraged. Like you said, I was just kind of myself, and so
Right.
I don't feel like it was this like purposeful suppression, etc. But there were times I remember like conversations like that of like, you know, it's okay to be like who you are and like
Yeah.
whatever, but it wasn't around queerness. It was never like stated or said. And I remember other moments of like people who really loved me and I think they wanted to protect me. They know what Indiana's like. They know what it's like already to be a black woman here, but
Right.
add queer on top of that, and it's like you're cute. You can have an easy life. Put a dress on. I'm
Like,
so
why are we doing
serious.
this?
And
Why
I
are we doing this?
remember like it was it was cool for me to like run around in like jeans and a little cut off tee or like when I was really young, I hated wearing shirts. But like I was a
Right.
kid, so nobody cared. I would run around with like shorts on and no shirt like a little boy. And I just thought it was hilarious. But that can't
Right.
last for too long. And like I remember when I was like going into uh middle school, um I don't wanna say who, because that's their personal business, and they were trying to be there for me, but
Right.
I remember someone close to me, like, took me shopping, and they were like, like, "It's like, you can still be who you are and, like, be pretty and, like, wear pretty clothes, and, like, don't you
Right.
wanna get this, like, pink thing, and, like, don't like, let me show you how to do your makeup," and, like, trying to protect me, I think, in a world that they knew would be very harsh, and I think the
Right.
trauma and the loss of Carla that people experience,
Mm.
I will say, and I wanna say it sensitively because that's your sister, and also
Right.
but people I did feel like there was this the message I got or heard growing up was like she took her own life because she was queer and couldn't grapple with it, or it was this thing
Right.
that was like so wrong that she knew that she like no one said this, but this is my
Right.
childlike mind putting two and two together that like this thing is so taboo and so scary and will change your life so much that
Mm.
because she could not be accepted or didn't think that she could live as herself, that led to now that I'm older, I know so much more about mental health. Like I know it's not a
Right.
one to one thing, but
Right.
I don't think I've ever told you this because again, it's like it's something that's important to me, but it feels like um yeah, I don't know. Like what good would it do to say? But I remember as a kid, like Carla was one of the only queer women, black queer women I knew, and then in our
Right.
family. And so I was young when she passed, and then she lived away for most of my life. And so I would see
Right.
her, but she would just like come to town like from Atlanta and like be so cool and like so much herself. And like as a kid, I was
Yeah.
just like she was like a possibility of who I could be. And so when I would have
Right.
those questions of like, am I gay? Like, is it? It's like you can move away, you can be yourself, you
Right.
can like live the life that you want to live. And so I think for me as a kid, it was like, okay, if this turns out to be true about myself, and these questions are not just questions like there's a possibility for me to be myself in the world somewhere else that's not here. And
Right.
like maybe I won't see my family again. Maybe I'll get disfellowship from the church or whatever, but like
Right.
I can have a life that's my own. And she was everything I remember about her, so smart, funny,
Yes.
kind, and was just fully herself. You cannot tell Carla to be anybody but herself. And my
Right.
dad and her were close and like he always thought the world of her and would talk to me about her, maybe because of that like you might be a little like Carla, let me tell you that but like
Right.
and like I never said anything but in my head it was always like that's the one example I have of like a life that could be mine.
Right. Right. Thank you for sharing that. And also, I just even I mean, I didn't wanna make this all about my sister, but she was
Let's
that person. Right, like, she was that person even for me because it was just like, I remember when I was younger, her dresser, because like, all of my sisters not all of my sisters, pretty much Brenda, Lisa, and Carla all slept upstairs when I was a kid. Like, that was their space. And then Mary and Scotty had the bedrooms downstairs. But all that to say, on her dresser upstairs, she had Polo cologne.
period.
And I was just like and I remember asking her, and I was like, "Why do you have boys' perfume?" And she's like, "Who said it was boys?" And I was like, "Well, that's that's what I was told. She's like, no, like, I like it. She's like, and so she
Period.
opened it up so I could smell it. She's like, what do you think? I was like, it smells good. She goes, exactly. Exactly. And I will never forget that. I was just like, oh, I was like, so I could wear that? She's like, yeah. She's like, if you got money to pay for it, yeah, you can do whatever you want.
She said, "No, my allyship ends here. You won't be wearing mine, but when you get a little
Right?
job at McDonald's, you too can smell like Polo cologne."
It's like, don't get any bright ideas when using mine, but do what you will. Like, do what you will. And, she was the first person that introduced me to like indie music and all these different things. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, I love all this. Like, I love everything about this. Not this, and I think also too with my mom, she was worried that I'm kind of like all over the place with this story. But the thing is, I think my mom was worried about me when I came out that I was going to take my life. Because like you
Mm,
said, within our family, there was a conversation. I mean, I knew about this, but some people were thinking that that was the ultimate reason why she took her life. And it was like, no, that wasn't it. Like that, I mean, I'm pretty sure a lot of that was, that a lot of it, some of it was a part of it, right? But ultimately that wasn't it. But my mother in her head, and I'm pretty sure she was talking to like, the other family members as well. And that was probably, their conversation. That was maybe something also to provide them some type of like understanding around everything because mental
yeah,
health is not something that that I understand that our families really like talked about in a way that was constructive. That makes sense? You know what
I
I'm saying?
agree. Yes, it makes sense, and I agree.
Yeah. Right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So all that to say too, I never wanted people because when you're asking me, so this all comes back to me when did I know I was gay? I knew I was gay when I was like 5 years old, like for real. I remember we were playing outside at a friend's house down the street, and this girl, I didn't know this kid, but I saw her and I was like, "What? I like her." But I was also a little kid. Like it wasn't like, "Oh, I'm ready to
Yeah,
like, go to Pound Town." I'm 5. I don't know anything about this. Like,
right.
let's be serious. But I knew there was something different about the way I looked at her. Versus, and as much as people want to pretend like little kids don't talk about having boyfriends and girlfriends, like let's just keep it real. They always, but there's never any context, like real context to it. It's just what we've kind of been conditioned to talk about or whatever because we've heard about it. But even when that was something, like you said, it was performative. So I would kind of engage in these conversations with people. But when I saw her, I was like, what they're talking about these boys, that's what I'm thinking about with this girl. But I don't know that I can say that. So 5, right? But then, you put that on the shelf. I'm like 5. Like I'm just still trying to like live my best life
Yeah.
and, play some, hopscotch or whatever. I don't know. But I don't know, right? But I think as like growing up with my sister helped me a lot to realize who I was in that way. And at the same time, I was struggling with the religious component of it, right? So I was like living almost like a double life, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
You know?
I think that's why I have such a to this day, I have a very, like, insular inner life. Like,
Mm,
it's probably what I mean, I always love to read. I think our family, we're storytellers anyway, but I think a big part of that is what contributed to me being a writer. Like,
right,
I had my diary, my notebooks, my inner thoughts. I even to this day put headphones on, be in my own world. Like, I'm social, I'm
right,
an extrovert, I'll talk to anybody. But at home, outside, on a bike ride, when I was a kid, my middle sister and I shared a room, and she got a bigger side of the room, but I got the walk-in closet. I had a
right,
desk pushed to the back, hidden behind, like, it wasn't hidden, but like behind this like row of sweaters, and I would just like go in there and like write or like listen to music and just be by myself and like vibe. I'm like, where is she? Where is she? What could she be doing? And it would just be my time to it was a place where I could be myself without like external eyes on me and worrying if I'm performing the right way. And I think religion does that, especially when you grow up very tight knit and close. And so there's this mix of like, we love you, we're so proud of you, and all of these things. But it's like the underlying message is like when you stop performing, the love is equated to that too. And what will
Right.
happen when you don't meet those expectations? You're not going to be everybody's little golden child anymore. Who wants that as a kid? You
Right.
want to be special
Right.
and thought of well, and and you hear what people say about other people. And I remember
Right.
hearing those things, and I was like, even at my big grown age, I'm living a full life. I'm on my own. I'm paying my own bills. I don't have to worry about being cut off or excommunicated or any of the things. And there was this fear of, yeah, of just the people I love most saying about me what I heard them say about other people when they didn't
Right.
know they were talking about me. And
Mm.
it's like, it's not a fear of like, oh, what if I can't come home for Christmas? It was like, what if people that I love and I know love me deeply, like, don't love me the same, don't think of me as the same? And that was like harder than anything else because I never cared about social conventions. You know that. Like
Right.
when you said I could be myself, I'll tell off a grown person in the most polite, succinct way, and they'll be like, did she just read me? Like, yeah. But I would do it in a way where you can't be mad at me. I used big
Right.
words and didn't like say anything technically disrespectful, but you feel
Right.
a way. I wasn't worried about that. I was worried about, dang, what if my grandma doesn't love me the same and I know how much
Right.
she loves me?
Oh,
Yeah,
gosh. That is so real. And I think, I mean, and I'm assuming like a lot of folks that are queer, definitely experience that because that's probably one of my biggest fears, just knowing how close our family was, um, to be completely just kind of like removed from that because of who I am, you know? And so I think it took me so long to kind of like really um, be okay with being a gay person, you know? In some ways, and I don't say like this was like the end all be all, but in some ways, me moving to New York was that escape that I was longing for because I felt like, okay, in New York, I can be me. And then when I go back to Evansville, that Alicia that they know. And I'm going to keep it that way. And I kept it like that for a long time. And so all that, even though I know people are probably still like, okay, she's gay. We know, quit fooling around. But like, whatever. Right?
you lying to me or yourself? Like what?
Right. And so I guess all that to say is like, did you experience that for yourself? Like, did you ever feel like you had to kind of like teeter between the or Carson that was, who we knew versus who you were outside of Evansville? You know what I'm saying?
For sure. And I mean, even like knowing what's expected of you, but also being a very like curious person and like exploring and experiencing the world in a lot of different ways, but then having to square that with like the person like you're supposed to be, but also like for me, like I was not pretending. Like I've read the Bible
Right.
front to back. We were at church multiple days a week. Like
Right.
I tell people I was like 3 or 4 days a week at church. I don't even know what all the programs were, but we were just always there because it was like
Right.
family, it was community, it was yeah, and church was a refuge for me. Like
Right.
I always went to very white schools, and even when like in high school, the demographics of my school were like much blacker and more diverse, but my classes were lily white. In order
Right.
to have anything or like the systems of power here, unlike in the South where there are like black institutions that are like long standing and like you can achieve success and move up in those
Right.
areas. In Indiana, you have to assimilate into white spaces to have anything of value, to like have any accomplishments. For the most part, you're in white spaces. So it was isolating, but church um church was where I got to be myself. And like I would go to my grandma's house after school, like very black neighborhood, like, my
Right.
friends who had similar experiences to me and things like that. And so in the places that were probably the most anti to my queerness, it affirmed everything else. And so it wasn't like I hadn't drank the Kool-Aid, and I hate to use that expression knowing the actual history of Jonestown now, but it
Right.
wasn't like I was performing, like, I believe that. So when I'm having these inner things, it's like, how could a God that I know that made me who I am and that is like so powerful and so big care about little petty stuff like this or make me a way that I'm not supposed to be? And so
Right.
um yeah, I had a hard time squaring that, but then also I had a subscription to National Geographic from like 4th grade. Like not Nat Geo Kids, like I was
Right.
such a nerd. So like I'm reading on like the Council of Nicaea and like the Gnostic Gospels and like
Right.
early like continental African Christianity, and I'm like, so much of what I thought to be certain is actually more nuanced than that, and that actually
Right.
makes sense for a big God.
Right.
Actually,
Right. Right.
yeah. I don't know if I answered your question. I went off on a little bit of a tangent, but
No, you're fine. No, that makes total sense because the thing is like you were saying, it's like you had the ability to kind of like, you did have a little bit of a struggle, but at the same time, I think too, and I could be going off on a tangent here, but I think also too, like because like particularly with our family, I'm thinking more about our family because also y'all, our church was basically like our family, and I mean literally our family. Like, we grew up in a family church, so
and our
like
aunties founded the church. Your mom or your grandma was, I think, one of the founders, but like, and when I tell people that, I'm like, it wasn't a cult. They just like founded that specific church in town. Like, but it
right.
used to be over at the house on John. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And they moved down the street on John Street, and then they eventually moved to Mulberry. Yeah. So it's like it's all of our family. There was a little bit of grace that was kind of held for us because we were at the end of the day, even though we would be at church, we still had to go home with these people. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it was a little different in that way. And but you know what? It could be different for other people too. It could be a thing because I know some kids or people rather that were pastors' kids, right? And so they were then condemned by their parent because of their sexuality. So it's a little different. But within our family, I think we had a unique experience. Also, because our church was small too. Like we didn't grow up in a big church either. So it's kind of like you got to pick your battles here, people. We need people in the pews, if that makes sense. You know what I'm saying?
If we lose all the gays, we're gonna lose our best and brightest.
I mean, hello. Like
Black community message. If you lose all your gays,
then what?
come on. We're the vanguard. Like, come on. Happy Pride.
Right. No, and so I think for me, like it's been this journey of me being a queer person, just in not just in our family in Evansville, in the church situation, even here in New York. I think this whole journey of me being who I am has allowed me to realize I'm more than being a queer person. Because then for a long time, that was like my battle cry, right? I'm a lesbian. You know what I'm saying? And then once, as I start living, it's like, okay, there's so much more to me than just being a gay woman, right?
I stopped going to church when I was 15 or 16
Uh-huh.
because of some political things, but especially around gender. Like, I grew up preaching in the church.
Right,
One of the pastors that like really loved me, we were like down. He was like, I want to make you a junior elder. Like, you're so involved, you're leading youth program and this, that, and the third.
right,
And it wasn't only the church had grown in a way where it wasn't mostly our family like it used to be,
right,
and I I'm probably not supposed to know this because it was a board meeting, but your mom walked out of the board meeting of this meeting because people were like, women can't be elders, so girls can't be junior elders. And no, mind you, there were no boys at the church doing anything. So it's like, you have
right,
me or nothing. They made a whole big deal out of it. And then the new pastor was like, only elders, deacons, junior elders, or ordained people can preach from the pulpit, period.
wow,
And so I had always done that. And it was like, you got to preach out front in the little area with the little microphone. which is not even a big deal, but it was like a fuck you
Right.
for no reason. Why is fuck me for? Like,
Right.
and also this is the church I grew up in. Like our aunties like founded that. Like I have been a part of and pouring into my whole life, and to be told already at a time in my life when my views are kind of like changing and certain things I can't quite square,
Right.
being told I couldn't do something because I was a girl, and that's not how our family. We're a family of
Right.
matriarchs. Most of us, I mean, like, shout out to my dad. I have a great dad, love him down, but like,
Right.
we don't even have that many men in our family.
We really
And the
don't.
women have always been the ones to get it done, to be tough, to do everything, and they raised us that way. So for some outsider playing weird gender politics about nonsense, the last sermon I preached, I wore jeans, and they didn't used to play that. I put on big gold hoop earrings because had my ears pierced.
Right.
That's another story about me doing whatever I want. And I preached a message about the Pharisees being so tied to legalese that they were lost
Mm.
from Jesus and had missed the point, and the eye of the needle, camel will have an easier time passing through the eye of a needle than a rich man, and I added on a little to it, than a rich man or a hypocrite will have getting into heaven. And I
Right.
never went back to church except on holidays. Like I started going later, and like I was
Right.
driving, and so my parents were like very like, you have to go to church. It wasn't an option, but I was like driving by then. They were going through a divorce and kind of probably, I don't know, like in their own world and stuff. And I
Right.
was like, oh yeah, I'm gonna come late. I'm gonna come late. I might miss it, but I mean, I might miss like early service, but I'm gonna be there, whatever. And I would just not go. Or I'd pull up like it's 10 minutes left in church and go in the kitchen with Bonnie. And they were pissed, but it was like, I don't know. It was just, I think my dad also understood because he didn't agree with it. He like pushed back against it, but it's not like they were gonna like leave the church and not go.
Right.
So I think that separation, like around that same time, and like coming into my own understanding of my relationship with the church, I was still like a Christian and like was like, I'm just gonna go to like a more affirming or like progressive church that has coffee and donuts in the morning, whatever. But like that didn't feel natural or home to me either. Like
Right.
our church did. Um, but yeah, I think that moment of seeing other things for what they were, like, gave me enough distance that my relationship with like church had already been changing a little bit.
Right.
um but I think like my queer awakening took a lot longer, as I was saying, because lesbians were white. Like,
Right.
looking back
Right.
now, there are like people that I went to high school with that have like come out as queer, like you see them on Facebook. I'm like, I knew you was community. And but I think
Yeah.
there were two black gay girls in like my entire high school that I even knew of. And one was
Right.
like a stud, like she was the first black stud. I mean, studs are black, but she was the first stud I ever saw. And like I didn't tell my
Right.
friends or like my sisters, but like I used to have a crush on her. Like, please, if
Right.
you're watching this podcast, forget you heard this. But like she was like gorgeous and would like wear like tomboyish clothes, but like they were like fitted well, and like had like long hair that she would like wear curly or like in a ponytail, whatever. And just like carried herself with like this aura. But she was like maybe a senior when I was a freshman, or like we didn't run in the same circles, but it was just, I was
Right.
like, I don't know, like why am I so like fascinated by her? Like I want to be her friend, I want to get to know her.
Right.
Like, but it was never, I didn't associate it with like a crush per se. But
Uh-huh.
aside from that, lesbians were white,
Right.
and gay black men, I knew them, but that wasn't like specific to me. Like it wasn't until I went to college that I like had more queer friends, but they were white too. I didn't have any like gay women friends. I think a
Right.
lot of people still weren't fully out for the same reason I was. They were figuring out their identity, and their parents were probably putting money on their bursar or whatever.
Right.
And so it wasn't until I moved to North Carolina and like made black women queer friends that I
Mhm.
like came out fully to myself,
Right.
and like had my first girlfriend and like those types of experiences. Before it was like a, I don't know what I feel like, cuz yeah, it just, I didn't have a model for myself. Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
aside from you to a degree, but we
Right.
hadn't talked about it. Like when you had come back from New York, like blonde hair and a shortcut. I think I remember you got your tongue pierced,
Yes. Yes.
and I was like, I can't wait until I graduate. I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna go dye my hair blonde, which I did.
Right.
I I did some of those things like in high school, like just on my own behind my parents' back. But like I was like, I'm gonna cut all my hair off and get a tongue ring too. Like, yes. And I just looked up to you from a distance. I never said it until years later, but I would just be like, I don't even know if Alicia's gay or queer. She's just cool and like her, like she's a New Yorker. Like I didn't forget being queer. I wanted to be a New Yorker.
Right. 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 And you it's crazy that you brought up the whole tongue ring thing. When the first, because I had to get it done twice,
Not to put
right?
you on. I'm so sorry for bringing
No,
that up
you're
if I wasn't
fine.
supposed
You're
to.
totally no. No, you're totally fine. And the reason, like, I'm glad you brought it up because, like I said, I had to get my tongue pierced twice. The first time I got it pierced, it was like right. I got it pierced, and then maybe like a few days after I got it pierced, I was on my way home to Evansville, and so my mom came and picked me up from the airport. She was like, "Oh," like, she was trying to be cool about it. She's like, "Oh, what is that?" And I was like, "Oh, she's interested, like, I'm being so I shoulda known, like, I know Leona, like, why am I playing myself right now?"
It's a
And
setup.
I was like, "Oh, she wants to engage in conversation with me, like, with, whatever." So I was like, "Oh, I got my tongue pierced, mom, blah, blah, whatever." She's, "Oh, okay," like, "Okay," whatever. And so she was like, "Well, I wanna see it up close. Can you show it to me?" So my dumb ass, I pull it out. I, twist it up. I was like, "See, mom, here." So let me look at it. Let me hold it. So she's looking at. We are driving down 41. She's looking at it. She rolls that window down and she throws it out the window.
How did I know you were gonna say that?
She threw it out the window. She's like, "Well, we ain't got to worry about that. I will never." I was like, "Mom, like I spent so much money." She's like, "Oh well, oh well, oh well."
Man. And it's like a funny story now, but like your autonomy and personhood, and you trusted her and try to open up.
She's like, "Boop." Like I was so done. And I'm sitting there thinking, like, Alicia, you know her. Like, why did you even do that? Like, what were you thinking, right? But I think that's just another thing for her. And I guess I don't think it was her being evil. You know what I'm saying? At least I don't want to believe that.
I don't
But
think so. She's like, of course you're not gonna have a tongue ring.
right, like
And I'm your mom, so of course I'm gonna throw it out the window, like, and you're not gonna say anything about it. And it's
that
just this is
part.
what it is.
This is what it is. And I think that it's just I think it was just another thing subconsciously for her. Like, I am trying my best to keep you safe. Like, it's bad enough that you are in New York City. Because even when I decided to move to New York, because I went to Oakwood, for those who might not know, Oakwood College, Oakwood University, it's a HBCU in Alabama, but it's Seventh day Adventist. Why am I blanking on the words? Hello. Like, basically, that's the religion, the origin of the actual school. So anyway, I went there for 2 years, and even with that, with me going there, that was a whole story. But anyway,
I as soon as you brought it up, I was like, if this gotta be a separate podcast episode, cool, but I
yeah,
gotta ask some follow-up questions. Go ahead.
total one. And so, I was at home at one point, and I said to my mom, this is pre, tongue ring, pre New York. But anyway, I was I was saying to her, I think it was like a spring break. I was like, "Listen," no, maybe winter break, and I said, "Listen, I've tried. Please, like, I can't do this anymore." Because also too, at that time, I was really realizing that I was gay. Like, it was just because certain girls, even though I never, like, messed around with any girls at Oakwood because I just I didn't know that that was even something that was afforded to me, if that makes sense?
Yeah.
Especially being in that particular environment. Even though there were a few studs that were there, which was, like,
Ooh, studs at
mind-blowing to me.
Oakwood. Hold on.
It listen,
I never knew this.
oh, yeah. Studs at Oakwood, people were smoking marijuana at Oakwood, drinking, like, the whole thing, and that was a mind fuck to me because I was just like, I thought everyone was so holy. Meanwhile, I'm like, you know, beating myself up because I'm like, yo, Alicia, you are like the freaking heathen here. And I'm trying to like mask it, whatever that means, right? But then when I see these other studs and then I see people smoking weed and I'm like, okay, but I still don't know that this is even a thing for me. even though I'm seeing it in real time, it still just did not make sense. But all that to say, there was one girl in particular that if she would have said to me, "Girl, this is it," that would I'd be like, you know what? I don't care, Oakwood. This is my girl. We're done. Like, and Jesus take the wheel. I don't know what to tell you, but like seriously. But I knew I couldn't stay in that space because I couldn't be myself. Even though I
Yeah.
was still trying to figure out who I was, I know who I was internally, or who I thought I was internally, wouldn't fit the mold there. So all that to say, I said to my mom, "Look, I got to get out of here. Like I've done 2 years. I feel like I was in prison or something. Like I did my 2 years. Like
Did
please,
your
like
bid.
I did my bid. Like and I did. And the thing is, like me even going there was because my friends were going there, my church friends, right? So I was like, I guess I'll go with them. I don't know. Like there was no real like understanding around like, okay, going to college is something where you find the fit for you, right? Like that was never a conversation. It was just like, you're going to college. What does that mean? Figure it out. It's either somewhere in Indiana or Oakwood. Like, I mean, that's just was the
No,
conversations.
yeah.
I didn't want to go to IU because I felt like everybody that I went to high school with was going to IU, and I was like, I just need to get away from all these people. Whatever. I probably should have gone to IU, but that's a whole other story. But anyway, but yeah. So all that to say, like me going to New York was the thing for me that was like, okay, I can, and this takes it back to what I was saying earlier. This is allowing me to truly be myself. And oh, that's what I was saying too. With my mom saying, she basically was like, I've given you the opportunity to go to New York. Like, and that was major, right?
Let it be
Because,
enough.
right? You know, so to come back with a tongue ring, it's like, okay, I thought you would still be that quote unquote kid that I sent to New York. Like, what are you doing? Like, get it together, you know? And I guess all that to say, me saying all this, for you, when you went away to North Carolina and all that, were there things that possibly like with your parents and they were like, okay, you're coming back, like or were they just accepting of you, period, as who you were evolving? That makes sense.
Um, Okay, if you let them tell it, they've been accepting my whole life, and all I had to do was tell them I was gay, and they would have thrown me a parade and become like leaders of the gay straight alliance in town, or founded one if there wasn't one.
Right,
In reality, I had an interesting experience, and I think there was part of me, like, as much as I've always been a risk taker, I've been like pragmatic since I was like 3. Like
right,
I'm I'm gaming out solution, or like gaming out, end results, and like finding solutions for problems before they come up, whatever, whatever. And
right,
so I think, again, in college, it wasn't so much of like I was like hiding who I was out of fear. It was just like, I think if I had never left Indiana, there is a version of me that is like suppressed and hates myself and my husband and kids and don't know why. And
right,
like,
right,
because it was just like, it's like, what is it, like compulsory heterosexuality. Like,
right,
it's just the thing ahead of you. It's just like, oh, everybody does this and hates it. Like, everybody's fucking miserable with their husband in Evansville. Like, I'll just be another one in the thing. So I think it was like, there is something else, but I don't know what it is. But it wasn't like, oh, my parents are gonna like cut me off or like disown me or like whatever. Maybe subconsciously I did feel that way. Like, if
right,
I step too far outside the bounds, my life will be different. The people who love me and support me won't. But I
right,
think it was more so just, I was a bad bitch. I always got niggas. I never loved them.
right,
And I joke now, like, again, I know this is a public podcast. Sorry to these men, but so many of the little boys I dated, like my first boyfriend was a lesbian. He was just a pretty boy, like when I was like 11 or 12. And I think we both grew up to be queer or whatever.
right,
But he was just like pretty, like had
right.
long hair that he would get braided, and he's like cute little Brit. Like, we were a lesbian couple by all, by all, by all definitions.
Right.
Um, but I think there I didn't realize that I wasn't having the relationships other people were having. It was like,
Mm.
it was okay, like, this is what you do when you date, like, whatever. And it wasn't until I had beyond just like, oh, you kiss girls when you're drunk kind of experiences with women, that I was
Right.
like, this why y'all was shaking, crying, throwing up over these little boys? Like, this is how you felt about like the people you were dating or had crushes on or whatever. And I was like, I don't I'm like, will my aunties watch this podcast? But like without getting into like too much detail, I think there was a level of it where like, yeah, it was easy to go along to get along, whatever. So with my parents, when I came out, I had my own money. I didn't need them for anything. They couldn't cut
Right.
me off because I paid my own bills. And I think I was conscious of that. Like I had been dating women probably a year and a half before I told them. And my dad
Right.
and I are incredibly close. Like we still talk on the phone every week, multiple times a week, probably every day, to be honest. Like
Right.
that's still my
Right.
bestie. And
Right.
he felt, I guess, like betrayed that like I didn't confide in him first. He's like, "You tell me everything, so you were lying to me." And I was
Oh.
like, "I wasn't lying. I don't talk to you about my dating life or sex life at all. Like that's the
Right.
one thing we don't talk about. Like he might know who I'm dating or like if I love and care about someone, we're talking about them as a person, but like
Right.
generational, like we just don't talk about, or especially then, we didn't talk about my dating life.
Right.
And so he was accepting, but I think he had a lot to get over because I think it was the same
Yeah.
for him of like, what, how are other people going to treat you? Like, what's going to happen? And like, how did I not know this? Did I let you down? Did I keep you from being yourself in this like religious way I raised you? I think he had like guilt around it, but also a little ego of like, we're so close. What do you mean? Like, how do I not know this about you? Or why wouldn't you tell me?
Right.
But when he got over that, like we were fine. Like he was like super nice to my first girlfriend and like, would talk to her on the phone and like, it was just like whatever. We talk more about my relationships now that I date women than we ever did when I dated boys when I was a kid. Um,
Right.
my mom is Caribbean, and I will say, for a person who comes from a place that still calls gay people anti-man with no hesitation out in public and do not care
Wow.
about being homophobic, she took it like as well as could be expected and like
Right.
is super affirming now and like has had good relationships with some of my more serious relationships. But yeah, there were like 2 years where like I did feel like my relationships were different with like my close family. Extended family, it was like, I see y'all when I come home if I want to anyway. I tell you want to,
Right.
I'll turn up in this Olive Garden if you say something sideways to me. I've never
Right.
cared. I'll flip a
Right.
table over at Thanksgiving. I do not care. Once
Right.
I knew who I was for myself, like I was fine being myself, standing up for myself, and like
Right.
dare somebody to say something.
Right.
But yeah, sorry, that was a long way to answer that question. But
No, no, I love it. No, I love it because it's like this is something that's probably going to be helpful for someone else. You know what I'm saying? Because I feel like just us even just sitting here talking this through in a way that we've never done this. Like we both knew that we were gay, but it was like, okay, another gay nigga in the family, like whatever. Like it's just like, but then it's like also a thing where I would hope that this would then like spark conversations for other people that are in a family situation that
yeah,
want to talk to a family member that is also queer, but they don't know how to start that conversation. You
yeah,
know, because it's for me, I'll say, I can't say for you, but for me, it has been a thing. It's like I really wish there were more people in my family that were queer, just to kind of like talk about like life and like what it's like to be a queer black person in America. Like
yeah,
it's so different. It's so different than what people think. Because it's not all that, like you said, it's
yeah.
not this whole sexual, like we're not sitting around like, you know, I guess nerding down on being, weird sexual beings. Like
Sexual
we're just
deviance.
right. But it's just like any other well, I won't say like any other person. Let me not say that. But like that's not how like I'm not thinking about that all the time. Like that's just not me. I'm thinking about, just living this life and what that looks like in this skin. You know what I'm saying?
I think I was queer politically before I was out, like, queer in my sexual orientation, and, like, I was
Mm,
an ally, like, one of my I made a documentary in college actually about, um Black people who grew up in the church and like how they squared that like as queer people and like interviewed people and I it's so clear as day I was doing this for myself then, but at the time I just thought I was just curious and I was just like an ally, and so I'm like I'm realizing there are queer affirming churches that people go to, and like some people lost their religion, other people found it more deeply by being able to be themselves. But
right.
yeah, I think I don't know if you remember this because it meant a lot to me and probably nothing to you at the time because not nothing, but like you didn't, it probably is just like to you was just like, oh, a conversation. But I
Right.
was out like publicly to my friends, community, everywhere before I was like technically out at home, but
Mm.
only because I would come home for holidays, but like it didn't come up, and I didn't want I didn't want someone to find out and tell my grandma before I told my grandma. I wanted to tell
Yeah.
my grandma right away. Like, I say me and my dad are besties. Me and my
Right.
grandma, that is we locked in. That is my
Right.
person. I've always been her person. Like, I never went to daycare. She was my first and only babysitter. We was just fooling. It's
Right.
why I know so many family secrets. I'm in the back
Right.
seat with her and her sisters, brothers, her first cousins, whatever, your mom, and I'm just like one of the kibbles. Like I'm the that's where that's
Right.
that's yeah, it's like I am the 11th kibble. And it's why I started like going by that other middle name because it just always felt like, oh, this is who I am. But
Right.
everyone else guilted me out of telling her the truth. They're like, "She's old. You're gonna give her a heart attack. You know how close y'all are. She's not gonna love you
Right.
the same. Like, you don't know what
Right.
kind of hurtful stuff she's gonna say. Like, you think you're prepared for that. You're not." And so I had all this guilt of not telling her, but also that fear of like, oh, they're right. Like, I'm gonna kill her, or whatever she says to me is gonna like cut me so deep I won't recover from.
Mm.
Do you know she took it better than my mom, my dad, my middle sister? Like she and not to say they
Right.
took it badly, but she was like, "Okay, like that's actually not surprising. Love who you love." She's like, "I love you more than anything. Like there's nothing you could say or do that would like change that, and like that ain't nothing." Like she literally I think she always knew. She did not care, and like
Right.
once that was the case, I was like, no one can tell me anything. Dot said I'm good. And her and Jesus have a special phone line that only they got. I'm sure she asked him if it was cool, and he was like, yeah. So, and and that is when I was like more out on social media. And I remember like probably like the week after that, after I like my grandma knew and I wasn't concerned, I called you because I knew you were queer, but I didn't know exactly how you identified. Like you said, we had never talked about it, but I was just like, I know Alicia gay. And we had talked about other stuff. We were like like we had chat, but I was like, yeah, I just was like I just like called to come out to you. Like I just wanted you to know there was another gay person. And then
Right.
he's like, and I just, I don't know if you know this, but like you being yourself and like living your life like helped me like see it for me because that is true. Like as much as Carla was that when I was a little kid,
Right.
like she was so much older. I never got to really like know her personally in that way, just like the cool cousin who comes to town and is lit. But
Right.
you like seeing you live your life and be yourself and like do your own thing and move to New York and be like of the world and still like a good person. Um, it meant a lot for me in coming out, especially with our family. And I just like wanted you to know, but I know I said it in the most awkward, long-winded, like it's hard for me to talk about my feelings to this day, even though I'm working on it. It was just and just like the way you live your life and the possibility you put in the world, thanks. And like next time I'm in New York, I'll let you know. It's a core memory for me, and you're probably like, "The fuck was she going on about? What was that? Were you coming out? I already knew that."
I love it. I think because that's when I was living on the concourse. I think it's when you called me and you came to my apartment.
I
shortly
did, yeah.
after.
I came to
Yes,
visit
yes,
shortly after, and we had like your apartment was so cool, and your friends were cool. We were drinking wine. It was, yeah. Again,
yes.
core memory for me. Shout out to first of her name, Alicia, first of her name of the lesbians of Kibble.
I love it. No, I first of all, like we got to do this again. I don't know what we'll talk about. I don't know, but this is amazing. And then so thank you for this, seriously, because I needed this. I don't know about you, but I definitely needed this because, like I said, growing up with my sister and seeing her, and then still like then that was just so abruptly cut off, especially at a point where I was wanting to have like someone older in my life that had lived, you know, a queer life in a way that I was trying to navigate, right?
Yeah, I can't
Um,
imagine. Yeah.
yeah, so this is you have no idea what this has done for me. Seriously. Like
I
thank you.
wanted to be the gay cousin for everyone else that you were to me. And that was one reason it was important for me to like come out and make sure cousins, aunties, people I hadn't talked to in years, I wanted everybody to know. So that when they
Right.
talking shit and their little niece or grandchild or somebody hears it, they're like, oh, like Carson's gay and she's okay and like she has a
Right.
good job and like likes her life. Like I wanted to be that for the baby cousins I might never see or talk to, but I wanted them to know, like, hey, it's lit. You can get out of Indiana and be yourself and be who you are for your
Right.
pride.
Be be who you are for your I can't even sing it how you sing it, but that shit, it cracks me up every time I hear it. Oh my God. No, this was
So thank
amazing.
you.
Thank
Like,
you.
I don't even know if you know, but like, thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. Like I don't know. I think for me, it's just I had once she passed, I knew at that point, it's like I have to live my life to the fullest. I have to because at this point, there's no guarantee to life, even though it was a different circumstance with her. And at the same time, I cannot allow, you know, people or even things that are in my head, right, to stop me from living this life. And everybody's situation is different. So I'm not, taking away, definitely not taking away from my sister because she was beyond like if you knew her, especially if you're listening to this and you completely understand. Like just magic. She was pure magic in my eyes. Seriously. But like I said, to see someone so great in my eyes, quote unquote, fall in that way,
Okay.
I was like, no, I have to be that beacon of light in the way that I can never compare to her, but I want to continue that in some way. So I don't know. I'm
And
doing
you
my best,
have.
whatever that looks like.
No, you have. Like, and you're your own person. Like, you never have to
Right,
compare to her because you've carved out your own life for yourself. And like, yeah, I mean, I know that you were that example or that possibility for me, but like how many other people we don't even know who else like
right.
was able to know that and feel that way because of that. And maybe they didn't call and do the little awkward talk in circles conversation with you, but you've done that. You and I know that she's
Yeah.
proud of you.
Oh, thank you, thank you. I hope so, seriously, because like I said, she was the end all be all for me. Seriously, she really, really was. But oh my gosh, once again, thank you so much. This was fire. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah. And I will share all of Carson's information. I shared it previously in the conversation that we had prior. So I'll share like you have like your Instagram, like just different like if you want to connect with her in any
Actually, I
way.
have no social media. I don't know what you're talking about.
So she's off the
I'm
grid,
kidding.
guys.
No, I'm kidding. I'm sorry.
She's off the grid. I'm sorry. No, I'll share that. And oh, before we go, I wanted to ask any upcoming things that you're doing right now or
Yeah, I we talked about the archival and family storytelling
right.
on the last podcast, but I'm finishing my short story collection. It's essentially
Nice.
finished. I'm revising it and hope to put that out in the world and finishing up my fiction program, my MFA in fiction. And so I love getting to yeah, I love getting to talk about storytelling and our own like stories because I do not write creative nonfiction. Being seen and
Right.
known on the page is actually terrifying.
Right.
But grateful for the stories and the influences that let me continue on that tradition of storytelling, and like hopefully some queer black kid out in the world gets to see possibility in themselves too.
I love that. And when you're done with all this, let me know, and then we can talk about that the next time you come on the podcast.
I will. I mean, it might not be the next time, but like ideally one day, in the near-ish future, we will have
All
something
right.
to talk about.
Yeah, that works. We always have something to talk about. But yeah, definitely. I
Yeah.
would love to because I know you're doing such great work. So it's just like however I can help with like letting folks know about it, I want to do that.
Thank you. And thank you for having me as a guest again. I love the work that you're doing. I love getting
Oh,
to talk
thank
to
you.
you. Whether we were recording or not, this conversation would have been so like filling and just like heartwarming. So I
Yeah.
love you.
I love you too. Aw, yay. Oh my gosh. This is awesome. Right? Heart emoji.
Right.
Oh my gosh, y'all. Thank you for listening to this week's episode of the Eat Me podcast. I will see y'all next week and happy Pride. Yeah.